Welcome to a milestone episode of A Shot at Business Central and a Beer. In episode 50, episode 50. We've got a special guest, Power BI expert Kersten Xilas, joining us to explore the seamless integration between Business Central and Power BI. So, everybody, get ready to uncover the, let's say, transformative power of data visualization and analytics as we dive into some Power BI stuff. So, with that, we're going to grab our drinks and talk. Yeah.
Welcome and thank you for bringing in the beer. That's always my favorite part of having a guest here. is,
Absolutely.
Drinking some new different beers and free beer.
Yeah.
It's the best kind of beer.
And you were here for episode 50.
Yeah, that's
Huge
pretty cool.
milestone, episode 50.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Thank you for having me.
What'd you bring in today, Kirsten?
It's a Stiegel Radler.
Oh boy, oh boy,
I
oh
think it's
boy.
a good summer drink.
Yeah, I think so. Radler is right, if I'm not mistaken, it's half beer, half alcohol, whatever, and half fruit.
Like like lemonade or some sort of fruit
Yeah,
drink.
but it's got to be
Soda.
half and half.
Like a fruity soda mixed with a beer
Yeah.
is like the original kind of shandy or radlers.
Yeah, I believe this is my first Radler too. I don't think I've ever had a Radler before. I could be wrong, so none of our listeners hold me to it. Getting a lot of comments lately on beers.
So they say like it's similar to a shandy, right? You've heard like Leinenkugels, summer shandy, which is like a lemon flavored beer.
Mhm.
They say like the shandy is more like England,
Okay.
whereas the same exact concept in Germany is referred to as a radler. And the word radler or radlermass means a cyclist leader.
Yep.
That makes any sense.
Oh,
Wow, cyclist leader because
Why? Yeah. Why? How did that get that name, Michael?
so it was originally created by the innkeeper Franz Kugler in a small town named Deisenhofen, if I'm correctly, just outside of Munich. During the great cycling boom of the Roaring '20s, Kugler created a bicycle trail from Munich, through the woods, which led directly to his drinking establishment. So on a beautiful day in June 1922, it reported 13,000 cyclists crashed Kugler's party. So did they crash it for the cycling or for the alcohol?
oh, the alcohol.
So he was running out of beer, so he decided to start mixing it with lemon soda
Yeah,
that he had a hard time selling.
and the rest is history.
I'm not buying it. I think it's a nice story, but
Oh, you think it's just evolved over the years?
right. It's like now this guy may have created it. That's where it originated from, and he started doing this, but that he created a biking path and 13,000 people one day showed up.
Yeah. That would be a lot of organization for back then too. I mean,
Yeah.
I would think he would run out of beer a lot sooner,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, well, I mean, like they said, the term Radler comes from the drink called Radler Mass, which literally meant cyclist leader.
I hope we don't get any upset fan mail from the Kugler ancestors, reprimanding us for doubting the story.
Hey, if it's not on Wikipedia, is it true? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so this beer only has what? Or I'm sorry, not beer. This Radler only has 2.25% alcohol, 2.25. So
2.25 for the grapefruit.
not too much.
So Michael and I were drinking grapefruit radlers, and Kirsten has a raspberry,
Yeah.
which I believe is only 2%. So it's a little bit, just slightly less alcohol.
Yeah.
So very, very light because it's mixed with soda.
Yeah. I gotta say though, usually grapefruit can be a very overwhelming fruit if used wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's used just right, and
Yeah.
I'm very picky about
I like
the way.
this. Is super, super tasty.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the raspberry one too, because I don't know if you've ever had mead before.
Mm-mm.
It's like a honey wine.
Yeah, strong, right?
Yeah, but like I don't know, it kind of gives me the same vibes with the berry flavor.
Really,
I don't know, spending time at Renaissance fairs, it gives me
you
that.
get a lot of raspberry flavor in.
Yeah, like I've had a lot of like berry honey wines before,
Oh.
and like kind of giving me the same
Yeah,
like
I can see that.
feeling.
I looked at bringing in a mead one day.
Really?
And they were like 15 to 20% alcohol.
Yeah.
And I
You
shied
didn't know
away.
it.
Yeah, like, why would we torture ourselves
Yeah.
with this?
We're taking shots of beer.
Yeah.
I did a pub crawl at the Renaissance Fair in Wisconsin, and it was a mead pub crawl.
Oh,
And you went to
Wow.
7 different like pubs and tried 7 different meads. And it worked because it was like really hot and you're walking all day and you're eating a lot of food. But it was, you know,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah, it had to be hard.
you had to be there all day for it. It wasn't like you went for an hour and did
You gotta
this. Like,
sweat
Did
it
you
out.
get home in a wheelbarrow?
yeah, right.
Good gravy.
Yeah, if it's that strong. Oh my God.
So I did some research on Beer Advocate. As you could imagine, the ratings were not super hot.
Oh, I bet it got
Because-
blasted.
Yeah. But
Don't feel bad.
It-
Bear Advocate only like super crafty, like
yeah, it's gotta
hardcore.
be super strong
Yeah.
and powerful.
The craft brews. And
So this was pretty mild on the raspberry. It was pretty common. Tastes more like a raspberry soda pop than a raspberry soda pop with beer.
see that.
Meaning, right, not beery enough.
Beery enough.
Not beery enough was one of them, and tastes like raspberry soda. So I guess that's good, right? I mean,
Oh, it could have been a lot
kind of what
worse.
they're shooting for. The grapefruit one actually was more positive.
Really?
This guy's person, oh, actually, I didn't see who it was, says, if I'm gonna drink something under 4% in the summer, this is it. Tastes like real grapefruit juice in seltzer, not like beer. At 2.25%, it isn't something you drink to get tipsy. A summertime refresher, this is the beer you give to someone who hates beer.
Yeah.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
I like it.
Yeah.
I could see that. I want to say I had the grapefruit one first. I didn't even know the raspberry existed until I purchased it. But I feel like the grapefruit is like the tried and true one.
I mean, it is what it is, right? It's not supposed to be a shandy. It's supposed to be a Radler, the 50-50 mixture. So it's not supposed to be, that have as much beery as much of a beery taste as a shandy or whatnot. So
Yeah.
It's delicious and definitely gonna enjoy this. So we're gonna be talking about Power BI and Business Central today.
hot topic.
So we're gonna kind of start at square one and explain what it is, how it works, and then all the way through tips and tricks and whatnots. So stick with us.
All right, we're back and we're talking Power BI with Power BI expert Kersten Xilas. And I think we want to start out maybe talking just a little bit about what Power BI actually is, because there's some nav users and even some Business Central users that might not have paid too much attention to what Power BI is. So, Kirsten, how would you define Power BI?
I'd say that Power BI is not your standard data analytics tool. It's more of an interactive data visualization tool specializing in business intelligence. So it's really driven on the data that you have within Business Central or Navision or any other business software to kind of show you the trends of your data and also kind of holistically look at what your data could be telling you in Business Central or Nav.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I would think that it's a visual tool, in my opinion, when I think, spot trends and whatnot. So,
Yeah, I think like, yeah, those keywords like trends, visualizations, like I see sometimes in the Business Central world, people think that like Power BI is a reporting tool. So you can build reports using it, like, and I don't know if that's not always necessarily the best, right? If it's a report, you need to run it 5 times each day during the middle of the day to see what orders need to be picked, right? Or what invoices are ready to be approved and posted. That's maybe not Power BI, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely use it for a lot of different things, but I tend to shy away from things like financial reporting, especially in a structured, like visual you're looking for. Could you force Power BI to do that? Yes. Is it the best tool to do it? Possibly not. Excel is still your friend, Business Central reports are still your friend. But if you want to just do this kind of overview of your data in Power BI, that's where it's the most powerful. And the fact that it's interactive is very different than the average report that you might get from Business Central or Excel, because you are supposed to interact with those visuals. You're supposed to click on them, use them to cross highlight and filter the other visuals. You have the data slicers to kind of filter more data down. You have drill through options to kind of see where that data is originating from, where, the standard Excel, the standard Business Central report, you might be really analyzing the data and really, looking at those lines, where Power BI, I always tell my users that you're supposed to look at the data and then kind of move on with your day. You're not supposed to sit there for hours and just stare at a Power BI report. It's supposed to give you that information and then you move on with your life.
Plus, it's easier to build a visual in Power BI than as opposed to Excel, right?
Yes and no. A lot of my Power BI users are strong Excel users, or they have some experience with Excel if they're in the business world. So if you're taking that Excel experience, it's either going to help you or it's going to hurt you.
Some stubborn people out there.
Yeah. My husband is an accountant and he is a VLOOKUP king. He is a wizard in spreadsheets. I don't know how that experience would translate in Power BI unless, you have that kind of visual mindset and you know exactly what your reports are supposed to look like.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was easier to build visuals and stuff in Power BI. I'm not considering myself like an Excel power user. I
Oh.
still use Excel for a bunch of stuff, but for the visual aspect of it, I like Power BI.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is you have the Power BI app, right?
Yeah.
So you can build a report, build that dashboard with the dynamic filters and things built in, and then you can share it with other users.
Yeah.
Right, so now if it's just you looking at it, maybe you could get by with just having it in Excel and that gets the job done for you, but maybe, if you want to share this with 12 people,
It's easy.
this Power BI, right, the app allows you to share that securely.
It's a strong app too. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the collaboration and sharing aspect of Power BI is definitely far superior than any reporting tool I've seen, especially with like the type of work environments we have today with this like hybrid and remote, kind of work. Having the Power BI service or app.powerbi.com where you publish and share your reports in a collective space. It helps you keep track of what reports are in your organization and also to make sure that you know who has access to them. So you can't have someone saying, what report are you talking about? And it's like, well, it's in the spot all the reports are in.
I think we should clarify too that you can't really share reports with the Power BI free license. This has to be a Power BI Pro. And is there another license too?
Yeah, so there's a few different types of licensing. So you have the Power BI Pro, the Power BI Premium per user, and then the Power BI Capacity, and then the Power BI Free. And when you get into the aspect of sharing, that's when the license is very important. There's definitely ways that the free license might be the right thing for you if you're a very small organization. You're not going to be sharing it with a lot of people. You can kind of control that kind of organization easier.
Trying to spot some trends.
Yeah, but if you're planning on sharing this with all your salespeople, you're definitely going to want to look for a paid license.
It gives you control and security and whatnot. So
Yeah. The nice thing with the pro license is that if you create, like, let's say a sales department place where you would save all of those sales reports, you would then be able to share them with, salespeople, maybe sales directors. You could set up what's called subscriptions where it would email your users automatically saying, hey, look at this report. And it also lets you implement what's called row level security. So you could have a single report that has security filtering so that only people can see their own data and they're not, there's no risk of seeing something they're not supposed to see. And that only can be done with those paid for licenses.
So an example of that would be you create a sales dashboard that shows you all of your quotes and booked orders and history for your customers. You create one dashboard in Power BI, but then you add the, what you call it, line level,
The row level
row
security.
level security to say that, that Ken is salesperson KS. or however you map that, so that when I log in, I only see my customers and
That's correct.
my activity.
Yeah, and then you can, what I like to do is, you'll have, the salespeople that will be associated with their email address. But then you could also allow some email addresses to not have a security filter. So let's say you're like the sales manager and you want to see everything, you're still utilizing a single report. So instead of spending more time developing multiple reports or copies, you have a single report. You make any changes to that report, everyone's getting the same update.
And this is possible with Business Central.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so this is the Business Central podcast, isn't it?
last time I checked.
Yeah, so let's talk specifics with Business Central. So a lot of, if you go out and you look at a lot of what Microsoft has available, you see Business Central, and then you see Power BI kind of built in there.
I feel that Microsoft makes you think that Power BI is ready to go out of the box, built in with Business Central. And is that
That's-
the truth? Is that the key?
With Business Central Online, yes.
Really?
Yeah, because all of
There's
those,
no sort of setup or anything?
not really, because all of those cloud-based Microsoft products are already kind of talking to each other. They understand that your email address that you use to sign into Business Central is also going to be the email address you sign into app.powerbi with, the same thing you're going to use to check your email. So as long as you have a Business Central online license and you can sign in, that you're really ready to go for
Really?
Power BI for BC Online customers. On premise, there is a little bit more setup involved.
A little bit?
Definitely something that, you'd have to probably consult with, like an IT department or maybe like a database administrator, because on premise, it's just a different animal. There are different ways of connecting, different, network security things you need to address, where Business Central Online, it's just as simple as signing in with the email and password you use to sign into BC Online, and you can get started with your data.
So does cloud offer more features than Business Central on premise with Power BI, or is it comparable?
Yeah, yes and no. On premise, you do have the advantage if you're using an on-premise SQL server for that direct SQL connection. If you're using a direct SQL connection, you have access to your tables. When you're using Business Central Online, you're connecting to pages. And pages, I like to think of them as the greatest hits from tables. They don't have all of the fields available, but they have the ones Microsoft thinks are the most important. So it's kind of like what you make of it,
So you have to have a web service created and published, right, for that page? So it's
Yeah,
kind of an additional step too that you have to
yeah.
use.
But even the publishing of the OData links for web services for BC Online, it's a lot more straightforward and I think user friendly than anything on the on-premise side, of course. But Microsoft also provides a lot of OData links that are just innately available to get started with, some queries that they think would help you, some pages they think will help you. And then they have the assisted setup guide to kind of help you publish any other pages you might need for your reporting. The other thing that's nice about Business Central is that you have that, help and support, inspect the page, and it's telling you what page that data is living on. And that page directly ties to what you would be publishing for web services. So it's kind of cool because you almost become like a BC master, because you're like, oh, I need this data, and I know that this data lives in this page, and I need to publish this page, and it's fun.
So am I wrong then in assuming that you might kind of be saying that it's possible to extract more data from BC on premise than BC online?
From the get-go, yes. Just because, again, if you're using that direct SQL connection, you have access to the tables, the source tables, the sales header table, and not the sales header page. So it's like a pro and a con. Pro, you have everything available. Con, you have everything available. Yeah.
Is there a performance difference if you're connecting to your BC database through a SQL connection versus a web service connection? Is one faster than the
Yeah.
other for pulling a lot of data?
The on-premise is going to be faster, especially if you're in the office where that server is living or being hosted, because then you're just really basing it on, the
Based on your
internal
hardware, though,
network.
right?
Yeah. Whereas if you're connecting to BC Online, you are going across the internet. So it does take your internet speed into effect. And also you are relying on Microsoft, you don't, if you're throttling Business Central on Microsoft side, they're going to kind of control that. Whereas if you're on premise, you're already usually where your server is hosted. And if you're not, you could probably make it so that it's better.
Speaking of speed and connection, whatever, I remember a few years ago where it would take a long time to refresh a database with a lot of records in it. Has that improved at all with Power BI?
Depending on the license level you have, yes. So if you have a Power BI premium per user license, what they've introduced is what's called a large data set format for your workspace. And what it allows you to do is almost like partition some of that data. And this is really important if you're using transactional data. So let's say you're doing like a year-over-year comparison, and I have some customers that will go back 7 years to do these comparisons. And you can set up what's called incremental refreshes with your large data set format, and it basically archives anything that's older than whatever you set your incremental refreshes on. So let's say that you close every year in a typical fashion, and you know that there's not going to be a lot of changes. You could set that incremental to just look at the last X amount of months, let's say the last 6 months, and then anything older than that kind of goes into this like partition that Microsoft is storing for you, where that data is not going to get refreshed. It's only the new data that's going to get refreshed. So it allows larger data sets to be refreshed without error, and it also helps increase the time. So you could have, that giant value entries table or that giant item ledger entries table, and you could still reference older data without, performance issues.
It's fast then, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Should be on all licenses.
Yeah, I agree. It's very.
That's why you pay for the premium.
Yeah, exactly. So you can refresh your data faster.
Not
Yeah.
everyone needs to pay for that.
Yeah.
Right? Different price points. So, one of the questions I have for you, and it's a loaded question, I feel. So I'm gonna be honest with you.
Take a sip.
Can anyone create Power BI reports if they're a Business Central user?
Yes, I would say yes.
The answer is no.
Oh, and he calls you out on it.
Why is it no?
He's gonna say permissions.
No, because I think, and this is, let's hash it out. I think that there are different users
Yeah.
have different backgrounds and skills.
Yeah.
And strengths. And, you mentioned going into the page help to find what page number it was so that you can go build your web service and publish it to connect your OData source to it. There's a lot of people that have no idea what I just said.
I know. Well, when I do my training sessions, that's session 101,
Are you looking like in the group, like you're training people? Are you kind of looking in the back of your mind, like who's gonna be the real like Power BI, like power user here?
Yeah. Definitely, but I'm also a firm believer of if you put your mind to it, you could do anything. So it might be really scary at first.
Optimism is so refreshing.
You gotta look at the person
I'm
like,
like
that person doesn't want to do this.
I'm like,
I did do a training session once where they had their cameras on and this person was making really sad faces.
Oh,
And I was really hoping it wasn't because of what I was presenting to them
Yeah.
and showing them. But, I still pray that they still use Power BI because, it's a great tool, even if they were frowning the whole time.
No, but you said earlier, you're like, oh, if you're a really good Excel user,
Yeah.
you're gonna be a really good Power BI user. So is that like a good gauge? Like
Yeah.
if you could say, like if maybe someone's listening and they're going, oh, maybe I could go build some Power BI reports. Is that kind of a good, like really high level test? Like, do I feel like I'm really strong in Excel? Can I do pivot tables and VLOOKUPs? Like that's kind of like, if you know what that means, and can
You should
do
be able to
those
do Power
things,
BI.
then you should be able to
Yeah.
build Power BI reports, right? Right?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Okay.
If
Nope.
you're good with Excel functions, I'd say it would be a good starting point. But you'd also have to have that understanding of how tables relate to each other within Business Central or Navision. Because you could be the best Excel user and just not understand table relationship or anything like that. And it might be a little bit of a struggle. And it could be the opposite. Maybe you understand table relationship, but you're not a good Excel user. It's really what you make of it. But I feel like once you start understanding how tables relate, it just starts clicking. You know, Power BI is so new, it's so innovative. There's so many forums of people talking about just what we're talking about. And I always tell the people I train, if you have a question about Power BI, 99.9% of the time someone else does too.
So there's a huge community of users.
Yeah.
Right, because you can use this with anything, right? Any data.
Oh,
source?
yeah. I have customers that are using Salesforce.com. They're using Business Central. They're using, some legacy Excel worksheets. They're using, custom programming ERP solutions. I have HubSpot. I have Google Analytic customers,
Say
BigCommerce.
online data
I think-
sources.
I think I saw there's over 500 connections that are
Yeah.
available to be connected to Power BI.
Yeah, and if you don't have one of those kind of out of the box connections that Power BI makes available for you, you have just OData, you have
Mhm.
websites, you have APIs. I mean, it's limitless and every release has a new connector, I feel like.
So with there being so many different connections, can I build a report from multiple connections and actually display that inside Business Central?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Can be
I
outside connections too. It doesn't have to
Yeah,
be just.
no, it doesn't have to just be Business Central. I think the most common thing I see is, companies having that old Excel spreadsheet that they've just been kind of
Hmm.
living off of for the last 15 years. And that data's not in Business Central, but one day they plan to put it in Business Central. We'll take that Excel data, we'll take your Business Central data, we'll merge it into one data set. You won't even be able to tell what's coming from what, and then you integrate it into your Power BI fact box. You're looking at it in Power BI. Your end users don't know that that old Excel spreadsheet is even being referenced in this. So yeah, you could bring in whatever you want and still present it in Business Central.
That's also one of the really sexy features of Power BI, right? The ability to, combine multiple data sources into one thing. Maybe some data's coming in from a time tracking system.
Yeah.
Some's coming in from a shop floor machine or something and then some BC.
Is that a sexy feature of Power BI or is it a sexy feature of Business Central where you can display multiple?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
You just blew my mind.
There you go.
I think it's both, honestly. The one thing I hear a lot from my users is I don't want to have 15 places to check. I don't want to sign into Business Central and then sign into Power BI and then sign into Teams and sign into this. And Business Central having that kind of fact box for Power BI right there. It's okay. You don't want people to sign into 20 different places. Great. Have them sign into Business Central. They can
Yeah.
get to their Power BI from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
I got one.
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Go for it.
So is there one report that you'd recommend every Business Central customer have or build?
Yeah.
Or no?
I would say I have one I'd recommend they start with, if that makes sense. And I think it would be a really basic year-to-date sales analysis. I think that type of report kind of combines many functions of Power BI. That's a good introduction because they're going to rely heavily on them. The idea of building relationships against tables, creating a calendar table, working with time intelligence, seeing how different DAX measures display in different visuals. I think it's a really easy one to pick up on, and then it's a really easy one to build off of.
Did you say DAX?
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
What is DAX?
DAX is the type of language that Power BI uses to build measures and do complex calculations. I like to think of
Functions kind of?
Yeah, I like to think of it if Excel functions and SQL had a baby, it would be DAX. It's
They
DAX.
would name it DAX.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of Excel functions that you might be familiar with.
Mhm.
And they brought them over to Power BI. And I would say if there's one thing that Power BI could do better is just bring them all over at this point. You know, there's so many where I'm working on a report and I'm like, if I just had this function from Excel, it'd be night and day.
Really?
So yeah, and like I said, there's a lot. And every time they do an update, they're like, we're introducing index from Excel, you know, now available for DAX. And it's like, okay, what about all the other ones I want? I'm waiting.
So,
What's that, like an example would be like, I think this is how you'd use DAX, like in your data set, right, from Business Central, all your transactions have a posting date on it. And then you want to do like a quarterly analysis of your data. Would you have to, you create another column or field in your data set that uses a DAX formula or whatever to convert the posting date into a quarter number?
There's a lot
Is
of
that
ways.
like an example?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do that in Power BI, but yeah, you could go into your table view of your report and create a custom column and use a DAX expression where it references the posting date, but you want it in a quarter format.
Right.
You could also use M language in Power Query Editor and achieve the same thing. So I like to tell people in Power BI, there's a million ways to do the same thing. So
way to get technical, Ken.
yeah, sorry.
I just proved myself a little.
Yeah. Now we got M language too with DAX. Like, I want to know. Yeah.
All right, yeah, Michael, back to you.
Well, let's talk about the future of Power BI then. I'm a big AI guy, right? And do you see artificial intelligence being a positive for Power BI in the future or a negative for Power BI in the future?
I think both,
Both?
honestly. I just found this new feature on the Power BI service, which is the app.powerbi.com, where if you link your data or you create a data set in the cloud, they have kind of like the Microsoft Copilot say, let me build a report for you. I think that's awesome. It's really cool to see it building it. I think it's a great way for companies getting started with Power BI to kind of see what the possibilities are. But at the same time, I do appreciate the human involvement with it. I haven't seen it too much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely looking forward to see how it progresses. But
Absolutely.
at the same time, you know, I do so many cool things in Power BI, and I think other humans could do the same thing. And I don't want people to think they have to rely on AI in the future. But I think if AI and humans could work together to build some really cool Power BI reports, that would be legit.
Oh, absolutely. I think I see a future of AI with Power BI too, like you said, building the reports. But I think AI might also be able to spot trends
Yes.
quicker than a human can, and then make recommendations based upon those trends.
Yeah.
But you still need the human aspect to run it and analyze it and give the okay.
Like I have a lot of customers who like the word KPI.
Yeah.
You know, key performance indicators. And Power BI has a visual for KPIs, and it's a terrible visual.
Yeah.
It's probably my least favorite one. It's all based on what you defined as a trend, what your target is, what your period duration is. And I think if AI could do better things for the KPIs, I think that'd be huge because a lot of businesses ask about that.
Yeah. I also think in the future, it seems to me that Power BI is changing their branding, right? They're getting away from the yellow and the black, which I really liked. I thought it stuck out. Now they're going more towards, like you said, the hunter green or in black as well. So maybe they're going to change that. But it's also falling under the Microsoft Fabric cloud, right?
Yes.
So what is Microsoft Fabric? Do you know? Have you heard anything about it or?
Yeah. So I read about it in the most recent release, how they kind of have this all-encompassing term they're using for Fabric, and Power BI is kind of falling under that umbrella, as well as some other, you know, low-code solutions, some other data analytics solutions that are more towards, you know, larger enterprises. But for the small to medium business, you know, Power BI is still the way to go. But you might start seeing the word Fabric a lot more.
You'd say it's geared more towards enterprise then? As opposed to SMBs.
But the Power BI is so flexible where it's the best solution for the
Well, I mean, enterprises have been using Power BI for the past however many years,
Oh,
so
yeah,
to switch it now.
I don't want people to get confused to think Power BI is going away.
Right.
I just think that Microsoft is trying to house it differently, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so they're kind of pulling it away from the Power Apps division that it was in, because it really didn't fit, right? And they're maybe creating a new analytical division
Correct.
and keeping it in that, which makes a whole bunch of sense. Uh, Power BI was kind of on its own, didn't stand out with whatever. But I'll tell you what, I'm excited for the future of AI with Power BI. I think it's going to be huge. I think once you couple, excuse me, AI with Business Central, then I think the magic is really going to start
Oh,
to
yeah,
happen.
that'd be really cool.
Because I mean, yeah, and especially if you could maybe couple it with a speaking thing to where you can say, hey, so and so build this report, from table blah 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 blah, however it is,
Yeah.
it would be huge.
That would be huge because like I mentioned, if you don't understand where the data is coming from in those tables, it could really help people understand that
The
table
relationship aspect, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's hard part.
Because it could be the exact same value, but just named something different in a table, and that really throws people for a loop. So if you could just say, give me a list of subcontractors, which
Right.
also could be known as vendors, it could help people guide them in the right direction.
Absolutely. And then when there's issues, they call Power BI experts like you.
Yeah.
So I want to covered a lot of ground. And so I want to kind of put it into a real world use case to kind of tie all this stuff together. So let's say there's a company out there right now, maybe someone's listening, and they're running Business Central online. They just started using it maybe in the last year or so, kind of starting to feel comfortable. They realize that Power BI is something they should be using more of to take advantage of all this stuff. So let's say they're a manufacturing company. They've got 25 full Business Central users, premium users, plus 10 Business Central team members. They have 10 salespeople, 3 production managers, and 2 admin accounting people who are going to be like building their reports. So they got 2 people that are going to be in charge of this project.
Okay.
They want to do some sales dashboards and reports, and then a production dashboard for the 3 production managers. So what would we recommend, and what would you recommend in terms of, okay, how many Power BI users are they going to need, and what version should they be running in this scenario?
Yeah, it sounds like there's gonna be a lot of sharing of reports.
Yep.
Maybe you're gonna have a centralized team developing the reports, maintaining the reports. I'd recommend the pro licenses. The nice thing about the pro licenses is that it's per user, so you could start small, doing it with your production managers, the sales people, and then as word travels that you have these awesome reports, you can slowly start adding on your other Business Central users. You don't have to do like all, I think you said like 35 possible users at
Right.
once.
You don't need a Power BI Pro license for all those people.
No.
Just the ones that are going to want to.
Correct,
Cheap
yeah.
ones, too.
Mhm, yeah, so you can start small, and that's usually what I recommend with our customers, kind of gauge who will be really, digesting these reports. Don't go, crazy, get all 35 users licenses, and then you find out only 3 of them are using it. Start small, and usually it's word of mouth, or it's someone seeing someone looking at that report, or maybe you're one of the cool customers that are displaying the reports on a big monitor throughout your workspace, and they see that and they say, I like that report. I think I could, really, get a lot of value out of it. Then, go ahead and add the license to them. And if it doesn't work, maybe there's another person you can transfer the license to. But I like to do it as like a slow burn, ease people into it. I think that's when it's really, you can really get the best use out of, those paid licenses.
Yeah, why pay for something you don't have to?
Yeah,
But there's a month-to-month option too.
Yeah,
So you
there's
could cancel it if you had to.
exactly. And that's another thing I like to mention to, our customers and Power BI users is that you have, with Microsoft, your annual terms or your month-to-month terms. So you can try Power BI for, a year for the annual term or a few months. And if it's not the right solution for you, we'd be more than happy to explore other options with you. You know, you don't have to be married to it.
All right. Well, very informative. Ken, you got anything else for the Power BI expert?
No, well, just to say thank you for joining us.
It was a real beer first.
Awesome.
One more question. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes, I do. I'm a huge ghost
The hot
person.
seat.
No, I didn't do it. I didn't do it before.
No, really, I love the paranormal.
Do you? So you
Yeah.
do believe in ghosts?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Any ghostly encounters?
I've done a lot of ghost investigations at haunted locations.
Really?
I've had recorded some like EVPs like on my tape recorder. I'm old
Really?
school, but I've never seen like an apparition. That's what I'm waiting for. Like just a ghost to appear in front of me. Preferably not when I'm drinking the beer. Like
But that's when it's
Life
most
like-
likely to
Yeah.
happen.
I don't want to
Yeah,
happen.
they're all over.
Drink like 4 more of these and that's like, yeah, you raise your odds of that happening.
Just like the worst
So,
case scenario.
Do you like the scary movies and the
Oh,
ghosting?
yeah.
Have you seen The Pope's Exorcist?
I have not, but I've
Oh, it was good. It was good. Lifelike.
was
It's
good.
based on a true story, yeah.
I'll have
And
to
I don't like
watch
those
it.
movies. Like this, I think they're all the same. That
Yeah.
was good. Russell Crowe.
I'll
That
have
was
to
good.
watch that.
Yeah, all right. So onward and upward, I guess, to the beer. Just kidding.
Beer ranking time. So we rank our beers on a scale from 0 to 100.
Oh,
The
wow.
general consensus is if it's 50 or higher, you'll have a second one, possibly.
Yeah.
That's kind of the unofficial.
Yeah, it's like the 5 or
breakdown,
whatever, yeah.
like,
If it's under 50, you don't want another one. All right, so you first, me
I'll go
first. All
first,
right, Ken, go for it.
Yeah, so I, as always, I'm cheating by looking at my previous ratings. So, because I have to make sure I'm
Yeah.
like positioning this
Consistent,
correct.
yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. I had a
It's
problem.
kind of in its league of its own.
I had a problem with that early on where I was like, it got all out of
We all
whack.
did.
So I'm gonna go 71,
Okay.
which is actually 1 point above Summer Shandy.
Wow.
Because I think it's just like light and refreshing.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So, and this went down like water.
Oh, yeah. I think for me, it's hard to give a rating to because it's kind of in a category of its own, right? We haven't really, what do you compare it? I guess you compare it to Summer Shandy, but that's more beer-like, I guess. if
Yeah.
I'm saying it wrong. So I'm gonna go 74. 74.
And now I have to do it?
Yeah. Is this your favorite beer?
Probably.
So you get to go high then.
Yeah, I'd probably say like a 90. I
Nice.
feel like that's good. I mean, it's not like a perfect 100.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to replace water, but like I would definitely enjoy it on a hot summer day like today. So for sure.
Yeah, I love it. It's actually really, really good.
Surprising.
All right. Well, that means we get to close it on up. I want to give a quick shout out to if you have any more Power BI questions or whatnot, check out our LinkedIn showcase page. It's Power BI by Solution Systems. Kersten is active on there and and engaged with, there's a whole bunch of conversations going on. So check it out. And Kersten has also created some Power BI videos with Business Central. We'll link to those in the show notes and get those out there so everybody can check. And with that, thanks everybody. We appreciate it. And until next time, Ken, take us home.
Bye.
As we end today's podcast, we want to give a big thank you to everyone who listens, shares this podcast, and leaves us reviews. You've taken a good amount of your time out of your day, and we truly appreciate it. Thanks again. And don't be afraid to email us at marketing@solsyst.com with your tips for the podcast, or maybe you'd even like to be a guest during an episode.